"Your mom disappeared. Who's going to pay the bill?" That shout from Megan cut through the entire restaurant. All the diners turned to look at our table. It was her birthday, her party, her celebration with 20 guests she had chosen herself. And I had just gotten up, taken my purse, and walked toward the bathroom. Only, I wasn't going to the bathroom. I was heading straight for the exit, where a taxi was waiting for me. I left the chaos behind, the raised voices, the confusion, the $300 unpaid bill, and my son, Daniel, searching desperately for me between the tables while Megan screamed that I had ruined her perfect night. But that was just the beginning of everything. When Daniel flipped on the light in my living room at 2 in the morning, the scream that came from his throat was one of pure desperation, because I was there, sitting in my favorite armchair, completely calm, with 3 suitcases packed beside me and a folder of documents on the coffee table, waiting for them. I knew they would come. I knew that after I abandoned them in that restaurant, with all their friends as witnesses to their shame, they would come, furious, demanding explanations. Maybe they thought they could force me to come back, to fix the disaster, to pull out my credit card like I always did. But that night, I was no longer the same woman they had been walking all over for years. That night, Aurora Jennings, at 68 years old, had stopped being the convenient mother. I had become someone completely different. Someone who had finally found the courage to say enough. However, to understand how I got to that point, I need to tell you everything from the beginning. I need you to understand that this wasn't a sudden whim or a fit of insanity, as Daniel had shouted at the restaurant manager. It was the result of months, maybe years, of swallowing my pride, of pretending it didn't hurt, of convincing myself that a mother's love means sacrificing everything, even your own dignity. It all began about 2 years ago when Daniel called me one Sunday afternoon with that special voice he used when he needed something. I already knew that tone. I had heard it hundreds of times since he was a teenager. But now Daniel was 35 years old, with a stable job as a sales manager and a wife who earned good money as a graphic designer. "Mom, I need to ask you a huge favor. It's kind of urgent." My heart immediately sped up. I thought of accidents, illnesses, serious problems. A mother always thinks of the worst first. "What happened, son? Are you okay? Is Megan okay?" Yeah, everyone's fine. It's just..." "Well, we had an unexpected expense with Megan's car, and we're a little tight this month. Could you lend us $500? We'll pay you back next month, promise." $500. My pension was $800 a month. I lived paycheck to paycheck, but he was my son. My only son. How was I going to say no? "Of course, Daniel. I'll transfer it to you tomorrow. You're the best mom in the world. I promise we'll pay you back soon." He never paid me back. The next month, it was the air conditioning repair. $300. Then Megan's birthday. $200 to help with the party. Then an expensive gift they wanted to give an important client of Daniel's. Then their wedding anniversary. Then new furniture for the living room, because the old ones didn't match the decor anymore. In 6 months, I had loaned them over $3,000, and every time I timidly mentioned the possibility of them starting to pay me back, Daniel would look at me with disappointment. "Mom, I thought you were doing it because you loved us, not because you expected something in return. I didn't know you were keeping score." Those words made me feel terrible, as if I were the bad one, the stingy one, the selfish mother who put a price on love. So I stopped mentioning the money, and they stopped pretending they would ever pay it back. The visits changed too. Before, Daniel would come over on Sundays for coffee, to talk, to ask me how I was. Now, he only showed up when he needed something. And Megan almost never came. When she did, she stayed glued to her phone, answering with monosyllables when I tried to make conversation. One day, they arrived unannounced. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was making my simple dinner, a chicken soup with vegetables. I heard the key in the lock. Daniel had always had a copy of my keys, for emergencies. "Hi, Mom, we brought Chinese food. Are you hungry?" Megan walked in behind him, carrying several bags. For a moment, I felt happy. They had thought of me. They wanted to share dinner with me. How sweet. "Son, I was just cooking. Don't worry about it. Save your food for tomorrow. We're starving." They set themselves up at my table as if it were their own house. They took out the food containers, served themselves on my plates. I sat down with them, smiling, trying to start a conversation. How was work this week? Fine, Mom, fine. Megan, pass the soy sauce. Daniel, did you remember to bring the wine we left here last time? Sure, it's in Mom's fridge. Mom, can you get it for us? I got up to get the wine. It was an expensive bottle they had left weeks ago. I poured 2 glasses for them. They didn't offer me any. They ate quickly, talking between themselves about things I didn't understand. Names of people I didn't know, places they had been that I hadn't been invited to. I felt like a ghost in my own home. When they finished, Daniel leaned back in his chair with a satisfied sigh. Mom, I need to talk to you about something important. There it was again. The tone. The request disguised as a conversation. Megan and I are thinking about taking a trip for our anniversary. Something special, you know. 3 years married. We found an incredible all-inclusive package to Cancun. The problem is, it's this month, and with all the expenses we've had, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I knew exactly what was coming. How much do you need? $2,000. I know it's a lot, Mom, but it's our anniversary. We only get married once. $2,000. Almost 3 months of my pension. Daniel, I don't have that amount available right now. For the first time all night, Megan looked up from her phone and stared at me. There was something cold in her eyes. Don't you have savings? I have some saved, but it's for emergencies. And what's more important than your own son's happiness? Aurora, Daniel works so hard. He deserves a vacation. We would do the same for our parents if we had. The way she said my name, not Mom, not Mrs. Jennings, just Aurora. As if we were friends, or worse, as if she had some kind of authority over me. Let me see what I can do. Thanks, Mom. I knew we could count on you. They left half an hour later, taking the rest of the wine and leaving the dirty dishes on the table. I stayed there, sitting, looking at the leftovers of the dinner they had brought, that I hadn't asked for, that they had devoured, and for which now, in some twisted way, I had to pay with my savings. That night I cried for the first time in months. Not exactly from sadness. It was something worse. It was the feeling of having become invisible, of existing only as a means to get something. But I still wasn't ready to admit it. I still convinced myself that this was how modern families were. That adult children needed support. That I was being dramatic. I transferred them the $2,000 2 days later. The Cancun trip lasted a week. During those 7 days, Daniel sent me exactly 3 messages. The first was a photo of them at the airport with a, "We're taking off now, Mom." The second was a picture of the beach with, "This is incredible." The third arrived on the last day. "Heading back tomorrow. Love you." 3 messages in 7 days. Paid for with my savings from 2 years. They didn't call me even once. Not even to ask how I was, if I had eaten, if I needed anything. I, who during that week had to go to the doctor because my blood pressure suddenly spiked, and I spent 2 days feeling so dizzy I could barely get out of bed. Alone, completely alone. My neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, was the one who took me to the clinic. She, who barely knew me. She, who owed me nothing. "Aurora, can't your son come with you? He's on a trip with his wife. I don't want to worry him." Mrs. Peterson looked at me with something that looked like pity. She didn't say anything else, but her silence spoke louder than any words. When Daniel and Megan returned, 2 weeks passed before they came to visit me. They arrived on a Saturday afternoon, tanned, relaxed, full of energy. They were carrying their suitcases. "Mom, we're here to stay for the weekend. They're fumigating our building and the smell is unbearable." No problem, right? It wasn't a question. They were already walking in, dropping their things in my guest room, which I used as a sewing room. Of course. "Son, my house is your house." Megan walked past me without even saying hello. She went straight to the bathroom with her makeup bag. I heard her turn on the shower. "Mom, do you have anything to eat? We're starving. I have ingredients to make something. What are you in the mood for?" Daniel threw himself on the couch and turned on the television. "I don't know, whatever, something good." The food at the resort was incredible every day. I missed that food. Something inside me twisted. I had paid for that resort, that incredible food, those luxury vacations, and now they were arriving at my house expecting me to keep serving them as if nothing had happened. But I said nothing. I never said anything. I made pasta with chicken. I used the last good ingredients I had in the refrigerator. I set the table nicely, with cloth napkins and everything. I wanted them to feel welcome. I wanted them to remember that their mom knew how to cook well, that she could make good things, that she was worth more than just the money she could lend. When I called them to dinner, it took them 10 minutes to come. They were watching something on the phone, laughing together. They sat down and started eating without a word. Not a thank you. Not a this looks good. Nothing. And how was your trip? Did you have a good time? Incredible, Mom. The hotel was 5-star, the private beach, everything was first class. Megan really relaxed. Right, honey? Yeah, just what I needed. The spa was spectacular. I got massages every day. A knot formed in my stomach. Massages every day, with my money. While I was alone, dizzy, dragging myself to the doctor. And how were you, Mom? Daniel asked the question without looking up from his plate. Like something automatic. Like when you ask how are you without really wanting to know the answer. Fine. I had to go to the doctor because my blood pressure was high. But I'm better now. Oh, good that you're better. Mom, this pasta is a little dry. Do you have any more sauce? I swallowed. I had just told him I had been sick, and his only response was to ask for more sauce. Megan set her fork down on the plate with a sigh. I can't eat anymore. I'm so full. Aurora, do you have dessert? No, Megan. I don't have dessert. What a shame. The resort had an amazing dessert buffet. You could have as much as you wanted. She got up from the table, leaving half her food on the plate. Daniel followed her soon after. The two of them settled in the living room to watch a movie, leaving me alone with the dirty dishes and the wasted food. I washed everything in silence. I put away the leftovers. I cleaned the kitchen. From the living room, I could hear their laughter. They were watching a comedy, together, happy, without me. I slept poorly that night. I could hear them moving in the next room. I could hear their quiet conversations. At one point, Megan's voice rose a little. No, Daniel. We've already asked her for a lot this year. Give her a break. And what do you want me to do? She's my mom. That's what mothers are for. Yes, but we need to be more strategic. We can't ask her every month. She's going to catch on. Catch on to what? Those words hit me like a punch. As if there was a plan. As if I were a resource to be managed. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, feeling something inside me begin to crack. On Sunday morning, I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh orange juice that I squeezed by hand. I set the table with care again. Daniel came down first, yawning, his hair messy. Good morning, Mom. Smells good. Megan appeared 20 minutes later, perfectly put together, with straightened hair and full makeup, as if she were going to a photo shoot. Is there coffee? Yes, I just made some. She poured a cup and sat down, looking at her phone. She didn't even try the food I had prepared. Aurora, is this instant coffee? Yes, it's what I always drink. Ah, it's just that I only drink fresh ground coffee. Instant messes with my stomach. Don't you have any other kind? No, Megan. That's what there is. She sighed dramatically and pushed the cup away. Daniel ate quickly, without talking. When he finished, he wiped his mouth and looked at me with that expression I already knew so well. Mom, can I talk to you for a moment? Of course, son. Megan got up immediately. I'm going to go pack our bags. We were left alone. Daniel fidgeted with a napkin in his hands, not looking at me directly. Mom, I know we've already asked for a lot this year. And believe me, we really appreciate it. But something's come up, and we need your help one more time. My heart started to beat faster. A sense of dread tightened in my chest. What happened? Nothing bad. Relax. It's just... Well, we saw an amazing apartment. It's perfect for us. Bigger, in a better neighborhood, with a gym and a pool. The problem is, they're asking for 2 months' deposit, and we only have enough for one. We'd need another $1,200. Daniel, I don't have any more savings. I gave you everything I had for the trip. I know. I know, but don't you have a credit card? Or could you get an advance on your pension? I can't do that. I'm already barely making it with what I get each month. For the first time, Daniel looked me directly in the eye. There was a hint of frustration in his gaze. Mom, I just don't get it. You live alone, you don't have big expenses. What are you even spending your money on? On food, Daniel. On medicine. On utilities. On maintaining this house where you two come and stay whenever you want. Okay, don't get like that. I was just asking. I thought as a family we could help each other. I have helped you. Many times. Yeah, and we thank you for it. But this is different. It's an investment in our future. Someday you're going to get older, and maybe you'll need us to take care of you. This is like ensuring we have a comfortable place where we can all be. All. The word sounded hollow, because I wasn't included in that all. It was just an excuse, an elegant way of making me feel guilty. Let me think about it. How much time do you need? Because the apartment won't be on the market for long. A few days. Daniel sighed, clearly annoyed. Fine. But try to decide fast, okay? He stood up and went to get Megan. 10 minutes later, they were at the door with their bags. Thanks for everything, Mom. We'll call you during the week. A quick kiss on the cheek, not even a hug, and they were gone. I stood at the door, watching their car drive away. The house fell silent. A heavy, painful silence that made me feel more alone than ever. I went into the room where they had slept. The towels were thrown on the floor. The bed was unmade. They had used my expensive shampoo, the one I saved for special occasions. The bottle was almost empty. In the bathroom, I found the toothpaste tube squeezed from the middle, the cap off, Megan's hairs in the sink, makeup stains on my white towel. I cleaned everything like an automaton. I changed the sheets. I tidied up. I erased every trace of their presence. But I couldn't erase what I had heard in the night. We need to be more strategic, as if I were a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be managed. That night, sitting in my empty living room, with the television off and only the sound of the clock ticking away the seconds, something inside me changed. It was small, still, barely a whisper. But it was there, the doubt, the uncomfortable question I had been avoiding for months. When did I become this? Someone who only matters for what she can give. The next few days were strange. Daniel called me 3 times that week, 3 times in 7 days. More than he had called me in the last 2 months combined. But I knew it wasn't because he was worried about my health or because he missed me. It was because he needed an answer about the money for the apartment. Mom, have you thought about it? I need to know because the owner is pressuring me. Daniel, I really can't. I have nowhere to get that amount. But did you try to get a loan? There are options. Mom, I'll help you look. A loan. He wanted me, a 68-year-old woman with an $800 a month pension, to take out a loan to finance their luxury apartment. I'm not going into debt, son. The silence on the other end of the line was long. Uncomfortable. Fine. I understand. I guess we'll have to find another option. He hung up without saying goodbye, without saying I love you, without asking how I was. He just hung up. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing from him. Nothing. Not one call, not one message. It was as if I had ceased to exist the moment I stopped being useful to them. I spent my time staring at the phone, waiting. Every time it rang, my heart leaped, thinking it would be Daniel. But it was only telemarketing calls or messages from the bank. The loneliness started to weigh on me in a different way. It wasn't just being physically alone. It was feeling like I didn't matter to anyone. One afternoon, Mrs. Peterson invited me for coffee at her house. I almost never accepted invitations because I always thought Daniel might show up or call. But that day, after 2 weeks of silence, I accepted. Her house smelled like cinnamon and fresh brewed coffee. She had pictures everywhere of her children, her grandchildren, her trips, everyone smiling. It looked like a real family. How long has it been since you've seen your son, Aurora? 2 weeks. He's busy with work and everything. Mrs. Peterson nodded as she poured the coffee. She didn't say anything, but I noticed her lips purse slightly. My kids come every Sunday. Sometimes during the week, too. They call me every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. I know I'm lucky. I felt a pang of envy, of pain, Of shame, too. Daniel is very hardworking. He has a lot of responsibilities, of course. But a call doesn't take that long, does it? I took a sip of coffee so I wouldn't have to answer. Mrs. Peterson noticed. Aurora, forgive me for sticking my nose where it doesn't belong, but I've been watching you these past few months, and I worry about you. Always waiting, always available, and he only shows up when he needs something. It's not like that, no? When was the last time he came just to visit you, without asking for money, without crashing here because he had a problem, without needing something, just to be with you? I couldn't answer, because I couldn't remember. I simply couldn't remember when the last time had been. Children have their own lives. It's normal. Yes, they have their lives, but good people don't forget where they came from. They don't use their parents as ATMs. Mrs. Peterson, he doesn't use me. He's my son. I help him because I want to. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight with you. I just want you to know that you are worth so much more than he makes you feel. I went home with her words echoing in my head. You are worth so much more than he makes you feel. Was it true? Or was she just a meddling neighbor who didn't understand the relationship between a mother and son? That night, Daniel finally called. Mom, how are you? Fine, son. And you? Good, good. Hey, we got the apartment. My boss ended up lending me the money we were short. We're moving next weekend. That's wonderful, son. I'm happy for you. Yeah, we're super excited. Hey, could you help us with the move? We need someone to be at the old apartment to meet the moving company while we're at the new one getting organized. Can you do it on Saturday? Of course. I'll be there. Perfect. I'll send you the address. You have to be there at 8 in the morning. The movers are punctual. And you two will be there? No, I already told you. We have to be at the new apartment. That's why we need you at the old one. All right. Great. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. He hung up. He didn't even ask if I could get there at that time. If I had a way to get there, he just assumed I would be available. As always. That Saturday, I got up at 6 in the morning. I took 2 buses to get to their old apartment. It was cold, and my knees ached from the dampness. I arrived at 7:50. The movers arrived at 8 on the dot. They were 3 big men who started loading boxes and furniture without saying much to me. I just stood there, supervising as Daniel had asked, making sure they didn't forget anything. At 11 in the morning, the apartment was empty. I stood in the middle of the empty rooms, looking at the marks on the floor where the sofas had been, the lighter patches on the walls where pictures had hung. I sent Daniel a message. The move is finished. Everything is ready. It took him 2 hours to reply. Okay, thanks. Leave the keys with the doorman. That was it. Not how did it go. Not do you want to come see the new apartment. Not do you have a way to get home. Nothing. I left the keys with the doorman and left. I took the 2 buses back. I got home at 3 in the afternoon, exhausted, with my knees swollen and a terrible headache. I made myself a tea and sat on my sofa. I looked at my phone. No more messages. No calls. It was at that moment, in the absolute silence of my empty house, that something inside me finally broke. It wasn't dramatic. There were no tears. Just a cold clarity that shot through me like a lightning bolt. I wasn't his mother. I was his employee, his personal bank, his emergency resource, but I wasn't his mother. Because mothers deserve love, and what I was receiving was not love. 2 weeks later, I received an invitation by text. Well, it wasn't exactly an invitation. It was more of an announcement. Mom, October 15th is Megan's birthday. We're celebrating at Martino's restaurant at 8 at night. Confirm if you can go. Martino's restaurant, one of the most expensive in the city. The kind of place where dinner could easily cost $50 per person. And knowing Megan, it wasn't going to be a simple dinner. I confirmed I would go. Not because I wanted to, but because I still had that foolish hope that maybe, at a family celebration, I could get back some of the connection I felt I had lost with my son. The days leading up to the birthday were strange. Daniel didn't call me once, but Megan did. 3 times. Aurora, did you buy my gift yet? The question took me by surprise. I hadn't even thought about it. Not yet, Megan. Is there something specific you want? Well, I have a registry at a department store. I can send you the link. There are things in different price ranges. But obviously, the ones I like the most are between $200 and $300. $300 for a gift for my daughter-in-law, who didn't even treat me with respect, who barely spoke to me, who called me by my first name as if we were friends, when we clearly were not. I'll see what I can do. Perfect. And one more thing. There are going to be like 20 people at the dinner. Daniel and I are paying for our share, obviously, but it would be nice if you, as his mother, covered something too. I don't know, maybe the drinks or the dessert. Sound good? She didn't ask if I could. She told me it would be nice, as if it were my obligation, as if I had an obligation to finance her birthday party with 20 guests I didn't even know. Megan, I don't know if I can cover anything extra. It's been a tough month. Oh, Aurora, it's my birthday. I only turned 30 once. Can you really not make an effort? Her voice had that tone I had learned to recognize, half complaint, half manipulation. The tone she used to make me feel like the bad guy. I'll see what I can do. I knew you would. You're the best mother-in-law in the world. She hung up before I could say anything else. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling the anger start to build inside me. A quiet anger, contained, but real. The days before Megan's birthday, I spent in a kind of haze. I knew I had to buy a gift. I knew I would probably end up paying for part of that dinner. And I knew that after all of it, I would still be invisible to them. I went to the department store Megan had mentioned. I walked in with my old purse, my worn-out shoes, feeling completely out of place among all the elegant people buying expensive things. I looked up Megan's wish list on one of those scanners. When I saw the prices, I felt the floor move beneath me. The cheapest item cost $180. It was a set of towels. Towels. The items she really liked, the ones marked as favorites, ranged from $300 to $500. A designer handbag. An aroma diffuser from a French brand. Some Italian shoes. I stood in front of that screen for 10 minutes, feeling the tears welling up but refusing to cry in the middle of that store. I finally chose the set of towels. $180 that left me with almost nothing for the rest of the month. The cashier wrapped it in elegant paper with a gold bow. It looked pretty, expensive, as if I were someone who could afford such a luxury. Is it a special gift? For my daughter-in-law. It's her birthday. How lovely. I'm sure she'll appreciate it very much. I smiled without answering, because I knew she wouldn't. I knew Megan would open it, glance at it for 2 seconds, and say something like, "Oh, how nice, thanks," and never mention it again. On the day of the birthday, I got dressed up as best I could. I put on my least old dress, the one I saved for special occasions. I put on a little makeup. I did my hair carefully. I wanted to look presentable. I wanted Daniel to be proud of his mother. I arrived at Martino's restaurant at 8 o'clock sharp. It was an impressive place. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, immaculate white tablecloths. The kind of place where you feel poor just for breathing the air. A hostess greeted me with a professional smile. "Do you have a reservation? I'm with Megan's party, the birthday girl." "Ah, yes, right this way, please." She led me to the back of the restaurant where there was a long table already full of people. I recognized Daniel immediately. He was laughing with a group of men, a glass of wine in his hand. He was wearing a new shirt I hadn't seen before. He looked happy, relaxed. Megan was at the other end, surrounded by elegant women in expensive dresses and sparkling jewelry. She was wearing a tight red dress that probably cost more than 2 months of my pension. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was styled in soft waves that fell over her shoulders. I stood next to the table, waiting for someone to notice me. Several seconds passed. A minute, maybe. No one saw me. Finally, Daniel looked up. "Oh, Mom, you made it. Sit wherever you can find a spot." He didn't get up. He didn't come to greet me. He didn't introduce me to his friends. He just vaguely gestured toward the table and went back to his conversation. I found an empty chair near the end of the table, far from Daniel and far from Megan. I sat between 2 young couples I didn't know. They were talking among themselves, laughing about something I didn't understand. "Hello," They said hello without really looking at me and continued their conversation. I just sat there, my gift in my lap, feeling completely invisible. A waiter approached with the wine list. "Would you like something to drink?" "Water is fine, thank you." "Are you sure? We have an excellent wine selection." "Just water, please." I wasn't going to spend money on wine when I knew I was probably going to have to chip in for this bill. The dinner began. They brought appetizers I hadn't ordered, but that appeared in front of me anyway. Bacon-wrapped shrimp, mushroom bruschetta, small portions of smoked salmon. It all looked delicious, but I could barely eat. My stomach was in knots. All around me, everyone laughed and talked. They made toasts. They told stories. I was in the middle of 20 people and felt more alone than I did in my empty house. At one point, Megan stood up and asked for everyone's attention. "I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate with me. This year has been incredible. I have a wonderful husband, amazing friends, and a life I wouldn't trade for anything. Let's toast to life, to love, and to many more years of happiness." Everyone raised their glasses. I raised my glass of water. No one noticed. Daniel stood up too. "To my beautiful wife, the most special woman in the world. I love you." They kissed. Everyone applauded. I clapped too, though my hands felt heavy. They brought the main course. I had ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a chicken dish that still cost $35. The others were ordering cuts of meat that cost $60, $70. Lobster, scallops, dishes that came with French names I couldn't even pronounce. I ate slowly, trying to make my plate last, to have something to do with my hands while everyone else talked amongst themselves. The woman next to me was telling her husband about a trip they were planning to Europe. The man on the other side was talking about stock market investments. I had nothing to contribute to those conversations. Nothing in common with those people. I didn't travel. I didn't invest. I barely survived month to month on my pension. After the main course came dessert. A tower of profiteroles with chocolate sauce for the whole table. And then the cake. A huge 3-tiered cake decorated with edible gold flowers. The cake alone probably cost more than $200. We sang Happy Birthday. Megan blew out the candles. More applause. More toasts. Then came the moment for gifts. One by one, the guests gave her their boxes wrapped in elegant paper. She opened them with enthusiasm, showing off each gift: a French perfume, a designer handbag, a pair of gold earrings, a certificate for a spa, each gift more expensive than the last. When it was my turn, I handed her my box with the gold bow. "Happy birthday, Megan." "Thanks, Aurora." She opened the gift quickly. She glanced at the towels. She didn't even take them all the way out of the box. "Oh, how nice." "Thanks." And that was it. She set the box aside and moved on to the next gift. $180, dismissed in 2 seconds. I felt something hot rising in my throat. It wasn't tears. It was rage. A rage that had been building for months and was now threatening to explode. When she finished opening all the gifts, the waiter brought the bill. He left it in the center of the table. No one touched it for a moment. Everyone kept talking, taking the last sip of their drinks, finishing their coffee. Then Daniel picked it up. I saw his eyes widen slightly when he saw the total. He turned to say something to Megan in a low voice. She nodded. Then he looked over to where I was sitting. "Mom, can you come here for a second?" I got up and walked toward them. My legs were shaking slightly. "Look, the bill came out a bit higher than we thought. It's like $450 total. We're going to put in $300. Could you cover the rest? You know, as your contribution to Megan's birthday, $150. Almost a month's worth of food for me. More than double my electric bill. Half of my monthly pension. Daniel, I don't have that much cash on me. Do you have a credit card? Yes, but... Perfect. Use the card. We'll sort it out later. We'll sort it out later. That phrase that meant, I'm never going to pay you back. I don't know if I can. For the first time all night, Megan looked at me directly. There was something cold in her eyes, calculating. Aurora, it's my birthday. Are you really going to ruin my night over money? Everyone at the table was starting to notice something was wrong. The conversations were dying down. People were looking at us. I'm not trying to ruin anything. It's just that it's a lot of money and Mom, please, don't make a scene. Daniel's voice was tense, embarrassed, as if I were the one doing something wrong. I looked at my son. I saw in his eyes that look of pleading mixed with irritation. I saw Megan in her expensive red dress, with her perfect makeup, waiting for me to solve her problem. I saw all those people watching us, judging us, and something inside me finally snapped. I'm going to the bathroom. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the restrooms with a steady pace. I heard Daniel's voice behind me. Mom, wait. But I didn't stop. I reached the hallway where the restrooms were. There was an emergency exit to the side, and next to that exit, a door that led to the parking lot. I didn't think twice. I pushed the door and walked out into the parking lot. The cold night air hit my face. My hands were shaking as I fumbled for my phone. I called a taxi. The dispatcher said it would arrive in 5 minutes. 5 minutes that felt like an eternity. I stood in the darkness of the parking lot, hidden behind a car, waiting. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every second, I expected to hear Daniel's voice calling for me. I expected him to come out looking for me, but no one came out. The taxi arrived. I got in quickly and gave him my address. As we drove away from the restaurant, I looked back through the window. The lights of Martino's shone in the distance. Inside, they were all celebrating, eating, laughing, and I had just abandoned them with an unpaid $450 bill. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt something like freedom. I got to my house. I paid the taxi with the last few bills I had in my wallet. I went inside and locked the door. All the lights were off. The house was cold and silent. But instead of going to my room to cry like I had so many other times, I walked directly to my closet. I pulled out the 3 suitcases I had stored away. I put them on my bed, and I started to pack. It wasn't an emotional decision. It was practical, cold, calculated. I knew exactly what I was doing. As I folded my clothes and put them in the suitcases, my phone started ringing. It was Daniel. I didn't answer. He called again. I didn't answer. Then the messages came. Mom, where are you? Why did you leave like that? This is so embarrassing. Everyone is asking about you. You have to come back right now. I silenced the phone and kept packing. I took out my important documents, my passport, my bank papers, the deed to the house. I put them in a brown folder and placed it on the living room coffee table. Then I went to my small safe, the one hidden in the back of my closet. Inside, I kept money I had been secretly saving for the last year. It wasn't much. $1,200 that I had put away little by little, $20 here, $30 there, depriving myself of things so I could have some security. That money was my escape, and tonight, I was finally going to use it. I counted the bills. I put them in my wallet. I closed the safe. I looked at the clock. It was 10:30 at night. I figured Daniel and Megan would be at the restaurant for at least 2 more hours. First, they'd have to solve the problem with the bill. They probably had to call friends, borrow on credit cards, maybe even wash dishes. The image made me smile for the first time in months. Afterward, they would come looking for me. Furious, humiliated, ready to yell at me, to make me feel guilty, to demand that I fix the disaster. But this time, I would be ready. I finished packing. 3 suitcases with the essentials. Clothes, shoes, some old photos of when Daniel was a boy and still truly loved me, my medications, my documents. I changed out of my party dress into something comfortable. Cotton pants, a simple blouse, flat shoes. I took off my makeup. I let my hair down. Then I sat in my favorite armchair, with my suitcases at my side and the folder of documents on the table. I turned off all the lights, except for the small lamp in the corner, and I waited. The phone kept ringing. More calls, more messages. Now Megan was texting too. Aurora, this is unforgivable. You made us look ridiculous in front of everyone. How could you do this to us? I read each message with a strange calm. They didn't affect me anymore. It was like reading messages meant for someone else, for the old Aurora who let herself be manipulated. But that Aurora didn't exist anymore. At 2:30 in the morning, I heard a car park in front of my house. Fast, furious footsteps. The key in the lock. Daniel still had a copy of my keys. The door flew open violently. "Mom? Where are you?" Daniel's voice was agitated, angry. Megan came in behind him. I could hear her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. They didn't turn on the light immediately. They were looking for me in the dark. I heard Daniel walk toward my room. "Mom? Answer me." Then his footsteps returned to the living room. His hand fumbled for the main light switch. He flipped it, and there they saw me, sitting calmly in my armchair, with my suitcases at my side, with my documents on the table, looking at them with a calm they had never seen in me. Daniel froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out for several seconds. Then he yelled. It wasn't words at first, just a scream of pure desperation, as if he had just seen a ghost. "What? What is this?" His voice trembled. He stared at the suitcases. "The documents." My serene expression. Megan stepped forward. Her makeup was running. Mascara streaks under her eyes. Her red dress now looked wrinkled. She had lost all her elegance. "Do you know the humiliation you put us through? Do you have any idea what we had to do to pay that bill?" I looked at her without saying anything. I just looked. We had to borrow money from my friends. My friends. Aurora. We looked like deadbeats in front of everyone. And all because of you. Because you decided to pull your little stunt and storm off like a spoiled brat. Daniel took a step toward me. "Mom, this is too much. I know we ask you for help sometimes, and I know we don't always pay you back quickly, but that doesn't give you the right to abandon us like that, to humiliate us. What is wrong with you? What is all this?" He pointed at the suitcases. I finally opened my mouth. My voice came out calm, cold, firm. "I'm leaving." "What do you mean you're leaving?" "To where?" "Away. To start over. To live what's left of my life with dignity." Daniel laughed. A nervous, disbelieving laugh. "Dignity? Mom, don't be ridiculous. You have nowhere to go. You have no money. What are you going to do? Live on the street? I have money. I have savings you don't know about. And I have plans." "Plans? You can't do anything on your own. You've always depended on us." That sentence hit me like a slap. You've always depended on us, when the reality was exactly the opposite. They were the ones who depended on me, on my money, on my availability, on my inability to say no. I have never depended on you, Daniel. You have depended on me, on my pension, on my savings, on my house, on my time. For 2 years, I have been your personal bank and your free maid. And never, not once, have you shown any real gratitude." Megan snorted. "Oh, please. We asked you for help like any normal family. It's not that big of a deal." "Not that big of a deal?" "More than $10,000 in 2 years, Megan. $10,000 that you never paid back. That came out of my $800 a month pension. While you two went on vacation to Cancun, bought expensive clothes, and moved into luxury apartments." Daniel ran his hands through his hair. He was starting to understand that this conversation wasn't going to end like it always did. That he wasn't going to be able to guilt-trip me. "Mom, if you needed the money back, you just had to tell us. There was no need for all this drama. I did tell you. Several times. And you always made me feel like the bad guy. Like the selfish mother who charged her own son. Because that's how you look now. Like a resentful person who keeps score of everything." "I'm not keeping score of the money, Daniel. I'm keeping score of the disrespect, of the humiliations, of the times you only needed me when it was convenient for you. I'm keeping score of every time you forgot to call me, of every visit you canceled, of every time you made me feel invisible." The silence that followed was dense, heavy. Megan was the first to break it. "This is absurd. Aurora, you're being dramatic. Families help each other. It's normal. Families respect each other, Megan. They take care of each other. They value each other. And you don't respect me. You don't take care of me. You don't value me. You just use me." Daniel shook his head. "This is your fault. You spoiled us. You always said yes to everything. You never set boundaries. And now you're complaining that we took advantage. But you taught us we could. His words pierced me, because he was right. I had spoiled them. I had allowed this. But that didn't absolve them of their cruelty. You're right. I allowed this. And now I'm going to end it. Daniel moved closer to me. Now there was something different in his eyes. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was fear. Mom, stop. Stop talking nonsense. You're not going anywhere. Yes, I am. Tomorrow morning. And this house? Are you just going to abandon it? I took the folder of documents from the table. I opened it slowly. I took out some papers and held them out to him. This house is no longer mine. Daniel took the papers with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the lines. I watched his face change color. From the red of rage to the white of shock. You sold the house? I sold it 3 weeks ago. For $120,000. Megan's voice cracked when she spoke. $120,000? But this house was Daniel's. It was his inheritance. This house was mine, Megan. It was in my name. I bought this house with my husband's life insurance money when he died. Daniel was 10 years old. This house has kept a roof over my head for 38 years. And I decided what to do with it. And you decided to sell it to a stranger? Without even consulting us? Daniel dropped the papers on the table. He collapsed onto the sofa, his head in his hands. I can't believe it. I can't believe you did this. I paid all my debts, the medical bills I had pending. I settled things with the bank. I saved some to live on. And the rest, I donated. You donated it? You donated the money that belonged to your son? I donated $50,000 to a shelter for elderly women who are victims of family abuse. Because that's what I am, Daniel. A victim of abuse. Not with fists, not with shouts, but with manipulation, with exploitation, with emotional abandonment disguised as filial love. Megan laughed, a hysterical, disbelieving laugh. Abuse? Are you listening to yourself? We asked you for help from time to time, and now we're abusers. You're delusional. I stood up from the armchair. My legs weren't shaking anymore. I felt steady, secure. Megan, ever since you married my son 3 years ago, you've treated me like an employee. You've never called me Mom. Always, Aurora, as if we were friends. But you never treat me with the respect a friendship requires. You order me around. You demand things. You only call me when you need something. And when I can't give you what you want, you make me feel like I'm the bad person. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked me how I was? When was the last time you invited me to something without expecting me to pay? When was the last time you made me feel like I mattered to anyone? The silence returned. But this time it was different. It was an uncomfortable, guilty silence. Daniel finally lifted his head. Mom, if you felt that way, you should have talked to us. Not done all this behind our backs. I tried to talk. Many times. But every time I mentioned I needed the money back, you made me feel selfish. Every time I said I couldn't help, you manipulated me with guilt. You didn't let me talk, Daniel. You silenced me time and time again. Megan crossed her arms. Well, now what? Do you expect us to beg you to stay? To apologize? I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything from you anymore. Tonight, I came to say goodbye, to close this chapter, and to ask you to return my house keys. Daniel took the keychain from his pocket. He looked at the keys as if they were something precious. Then he threw them on the table with fury. Take your damn keys. I took them and put them in my purse. The new owners take possession of the house on November 1st. You have 2 weeks to get anything you've left here. After that, it's no longer my responsibility. Where are you going to go? That's no longer your problem. Megan took a step toward me. There was something threatening in her posture. You know this is a mistake, right? You're going to be all alone, completely alone, without family, without anyone to take care of you when you get sick or when you can't manage on your own anymore. And then what will you do? I looked her directly in the eye. I would rather be alone and at peace than accompanied and miserable. And if the day comes when I can't manage on my own, there are institutions. There are places where elderly people receive dignified care without having to pay with their dignity. Places where they don't make you feel like a burden. Daniel shot up from the sofa. You're selfish. A selfish woman who only thinks about herself. We gave you years of our lives. We included you in our celebrations. We made you feel like part of the family. And this is how you repay us. You made me feel like part of the family? Daniel, tonight, I sat at that table surrounded by 20 people and felt more alone than ever. No one spoke to me. No one asked me anything. I was just the wallet that was supposed to show up at the end to pay the bill. That's not family. That's exploitation. Enough. I don't want to hear any more of your victim complaints. Daniel's voice was cold now. All trace of pleading was gone. Only contempt remained. Then leave. Get out of my house. You have 2 weeks to get your things. After that, I don't want to see you again. You don't want to see us again? Just like that? After everything we did for you? What exactly did you do for me, Megan? Tell me one single thing. One single real thing you have done for me in the last 2 years. She couldn't answer. She just stood there, searching for something to say, but found nothing. Daniel took Megan by the arm. Let's go. There's no point talking to her. She's lost her mind. They walked to the door. But before leaving, Daniel turned around one last time. You're going to regret this, Mom. You're going to miss us. You're going to need us. And when that happens, we won't be there. I know. And that's okay. The door slammed shut with a loud bang that shook the walls. I heard the car start, the tires screeching on the pavement. And then, silence. I stood in the middle of my living room, breathing deeply. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. It was pure adrenaline. For the first time in years, I had defended my dignity. I had said no. I had set boundaries. I sat down in my armchair again. I looked at the suitcases. I looked at the documents. Everything was ready. I barely slept that night. Not from anxiety or regret, but from excitement. From the strange and wonderful feeling of having taken back control of my own life. At 6 a.m, I got up. I took a long shower. I got dressed in comfortable clothes. I grabbed my suitcases. I called a taxi. Before leaving, I walked through the house one last time. I ran my hand along the walls. I remembered the happy years, when my husband was alive, when Daniel was a sweet little boy who would hug me and tell me I was the best mom in the world, when this house was full of laughter and real love, but those times were gone. And clinging to their memory was only hurting me. The taxi honked outside. I took my suitcases. I closed the door. I put the keys in the mailbox for the real estate agent who would come by later. I got in the taxi. Where to, ma'am? To the bus terminal. On the way, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I didn't answer. He called again. He sent messages. Mom, we need to talk. Please, answer. Don't do this. I turned off the phone. At the terminal, I bought a ticket. A 6-hour trip north. To the coastal town where I was born. Where my cousin, Catalina, still lived. The only person in my family who had kept in touch with me all these years without asking for anything in return. I had written to her last week. I had told her everything. And she, without hesitation, had told me I could stay with her as long as I needed. That she had a room available. That it would be an honor to have me close. I got on the bus. I found my seat by the window. I stowed my luggage. I sat down. The bus pulled away. I watched the city disappear through the window. The streets I had walked for years. The buildings I knew. The life I had built and was now leaving behind. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel sadness. I felt relief. The bus ride was long but peaceful. I spent the first few hours looking out the window, watching the urban landscape slowly transform into open fields, then mountains, and finally the coastal highway. The ocean appeared on the horizon like a bright line, reminding me of my childhood, the summers I spent running on the beach, the simple days when happiness didn't cost a thing. A young woman with a baby was traveling next to me. The baby cried from time to time, and she rocked him with infinite patience. At one point, she looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry if he's bothering you. He's fussy from the trip. He's not bothering me at all. He's a beautiful baby. She smiled. A genuine warm smile. Are you going to visit family? Yes. My cousin. We haven't seen each other in person in years. How lovely. Family is the most important thing, isn't it? I nodded without saying anything more, because I was no longer sure I believed that phrase. Family is the most important thing. But what happens when your family hurts you? When your family uses you? Is it still the most important thing, or does it become a chain that drags you to the bottom? We arrived at the coastal terminal just as the sun was beginning to set. The air smelled different here, of salt, of the sea, of freedom. Catalina was waiting for me at the entrance. When I saw her, something inside me broke. I hadn't seen my cousin in almost 5 years. She lived her life here. I lived mine there. We wrote to each other now and then, but there was always something that prevented visits. Or rather, there was always someone. Daniel, his needs, his emergencies, his way of taking up all my time and money. Aurora. Catalina opened her arms, and I let myself be hugged. For the first time in a long time, someone was hugging me without expecting anything in return, just because they loved me, just because we cared about each other. I cried in her arms. I cried all the tears I hadn't cried in months. She didn't say anything. She just held me until I had no tears left. Let's go home. You must be exhausted. Her house was small but cozy. It was 3 blocks from the beach, in a quiet neighborhood where neighbors greeted each other and children played in the street without fear. She showed me the room that would be mine. It had a simple bed with clean sheets, a window that looked out onto the backyard, an old but functional dresser. It's not much, but it's yours for as long as you need. It's perfect. And it was. It was simple, honest, real. There were no pretensions, no hidden expectations. That night, we ate dinner together in her small kitchen, homemade vegetable soup with fresh bread, simple food that tasted like heaven. Do you want to tell me everything? I told her. I told her every detail, every humiliation, every loan that was never repaid, every ignored call, every moment I felt invisible. I told her about Megan's birthday, about how I had walked out of the restaurant, about the scene in my house at 2 in the morning. Catalina listened without interrupting. When I finished, she took my hand across the table. You did the right thing. You think so? Sometimes I think I was too drastic, that I should have tried to talk to them one more time. Aurora, listen to me. You did try to talk, many times, but they didn't want to listen. They wanted a provider, not a mother, and you deserve to be treated with respect and love, not like a resource to be exploited until it runs dry. Her words comforted me in a way I hadn't felt in years. What if I regret it? What if in a few months I miss Daniel and want to go back? Then you'll go back, but it will be your decision, made from a place of strength, not desperation. For now, you need to heal. You need to remember who you are, beyond being Daniel's mother. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months, without startling awake, without anxiety, without waiting for the phone to ring with a new request, a new emergency, a new way to make me feel needed and disposable at the same time. The first few days at Catalina's house were an adjustment. It was hard to get used to not having responsibilities, to not be waiting for a call, to not feel that constant pressure in my chest. Catalina worked part-time at a local bookstore. She invited me to join her one day. The bookstore was a charming place, full of old and new books, with a cafe in the corner where people sat to read and talk. The owner was a woman my age, named Amelia. She had completely white hair pulled back in a messy bun and wore reading glasses that hung from a chain around her neck. So, you're the famous cousin Aurora. Catalina has told me about you. I hope good things. Only the truth. That you're brave, that you made a difficult decision, that you're starting over. I don't feel very brave. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what you have to do despite the fear. She offered me a coffee. We sat at a small table by the window. Amelia told me her story. She had also been married, had 2 daughters, had dedicated 30 years of her life to caring for them, to working to support them, to sacrificing her dreams for theirs. And when her husband died and the daughters grew up, they abandoned her. They moved to other cities. They called her once a month, if that. They visited at Christmas if they didn't have other plans. And how did you get over it? I didn't get over it. I accepted it. I accepted that I gave everything I could give, that I did everything I was supposed to do, and that their lack of gratitude says nothing about me. It says everything about them. Then I opened this bookstore. I found a new family in the books, in the customers who became friends, in this small community that welcomed me. Don't you miss them? Every day. But I don't need them anymore. And that's the difference. Her words resonated with me for days. I started helping out at the bookstore. At first, just organizing books, dusting shelves. Then Amelia taught me how to use the cash register, how to make the coffee, how to recommend books to customers based on their tastes. For the first time in years, I felt useful in a way that didn't hurt. I felt valued. Amelia paid me a small salary. It wasn't much, just $300 a month, but it was mine, earned with my own effort, without guilt, without emotional debt. 3 weeks passed. Daniel hadn't called again after those first few days. I kept my phone off most of the time. I only turned it on for an hour at night to check for emergencies. One night, when I turned it on, there were 17 new messages. All from Daniel. My heart started to pound. I opened them with trembling hands. The first ones were furious. "You're selfish. I hope you're happy destroying your own family. Megan is right. You're a bitter, resentful person." Then the tone changed. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Please call me. It's important. Mom, we're in trouble." And finally, the last message. "The bank is charging us sky-high interest on the loan we had to take out to pay for the dinner. We're behind on the payment for the new apartment. If we don't get some money soon, we're going to lose the deposit. We need your help." I read the message 3 times. I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me, that old part that had spent decades being a selfless mother, wanted to call him, wanted to help, wanted to fix his problems. But another part of me, newer, stronger, knew the truth. They didn't miss me. They didn't need me. They needed my money. And if I gave them even 1 cent, it would all start over, the cycle of exploitation, the dynamic of abuse disguised as family love. I deleted the messages. I turned the phone off again. Catalina saw me from the kitchen. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm okay." And it was true. For the first time in a long time, I was really okay. The days turned into weeks. October ended. November arrived with cooler air and the smell of dry leaves. The house that had been mine now had new owners. Daniel and Megan must have gotten their things. That part of my life was completely closed. At the bookstore, I started to meet people. There was a reading group that met every Thursday afternoon. Women my age, some older, some younger. All with stories, all with scars, all looking for connection and understanding. One of them, Juliet, invited me to walk on the beach one morning. She was 70 years old, a widow. She had lived alone for a decade. "Do you know the secret to being happy at our age, Aurora?" "No. What is it?" "Stop expecting others to fill our voids. Learn to be whole all by ourselves. And build a chosen family instead of clinging to the biological family that hurts us." Chosen family? Yes. The people we choose to have in our lives because they add to them, they respect us, they value us. Not because we share blood, but because we share real affection. We walked in silence for a while, listening to the waves crash on the shore. The sun shone on the water. There were children building sandcastles. Couples walking hand in hand. Life. Simple, beautiful life that didn't need grand gestures or money to be meaningful. Do you think I'll ever be able to forgive my son? I don't know. But what I do know is that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean letting him hurt you again. You can forgive him and still keep your distance. You can wish him well and still protect yourself from his toxicity. December arrived with a mild chill that was barely felt in the coastal town. The bookstore was decorated with Christmas lights, and Amelia organized a special event for the end of the year. An open mic poetry reading where anyone could share something. I decided to participate. I read a poem I had written during my sleepless nights, a poem about being reborn, about learning to be free. When I finished, the small audience applauded. Catalina had tears in her eyes. Juliet hugged me tightly. "You are stronger than you think. Her words stayed with me for days. Christmas was approaching. It was the first one I would spend without Daniel since he was born. 35 years of Christmases together. 35 years of traditions. And now, nothing. I expected to feel sad. I expected the weight of loneliness to crush me during the holidays, but it didn't. Catalina, Amelia, Juliet, and other women from the reading group organized a Christmas dinner together. Everyone brought a dish. I made my special chicken soup, the one Daniel used to love when he was a boy. But this time, I made it for me, for my new chosen family. That night, sitting at the table, surrounded by women who valued me, who listened to me, who were genuinely interested in how I was, I realized something. This was the family I had always deserved. Not perfect, not connected by blood, but real, honest, full of mutual respect. After dinner, when everyone else had gone, I helped Catalina wash the dishes. Do you miss your old life? Not as much as I thought I would. I miss the Daniel that was, the sweet and loving little boy. But that Daniel doesn't exist anymore. The man he became is not someone who is good for me. It's sad when you realize your children grow up to be strangers. But it's also liberating. Because you finally understand that it's not your responsibility to carry their decisions, their mistakes, their lives. Exactly. That night, before bed, I turned on my phone for the first time in weeks. There were new messages. A lot of them. All from Daniel. The first ones were from mid-December. Mom, I know you're upset. But it's been a long time. Don't you think it's time to talk? Megan says you're being childish. I think you're just hurt. We can fix this. We'd like you to come spend Christmas with us. We can start over. Then came the most recent ones. From just 2 days ago. Mom, things are really tough. We lost the apartment. We couldn't pay. We had to move back in with Megan's parents. It's humiliating. Megan's parents are charging us rent. Can you believe it? Charging their own daughter to stay in their house. I need you to lend me some money. Just to get out of this mess. I swear I'll pay you back this time. The last message was from this morning. I know where you are. Catalina posted a photo on social media and I saw you in the background. You're in the town where she lives. I'm heading there. We need to talk face to face. My heart started to pound. He was coming here. Daniel was coming to find me. I called for Catalina immediately. She came into my room in her pajamas, her hair messy. What's wrong? Daniel knows where I am. He says he's coming here. Catalina sat on my bed. And what do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to see him, wants to believe that maybe he's changed, that maybe he's truly sorry. And the other part? The other part knows he's only coming because he needs me, because he's in trouble and thinks I can solve it. Like always, then you already know what to do. But he's my son, Catalina. I know. And he will always be your son. But that doesn't mean you have to let him in every time he knocks on the door. You can love him from a distance. You can wish him well without sacrificing your peace. I stayed up all night, thinking, remembering, trying to prepare my heart for what was coming. Daniel arrived 2 days later. It was December 27th, a cloudy day that smelled like rain. I was at the bookstore when Catalina called me. He's here, at my house, asking for you. How does he look? Tired. Worn out. He says he needs to talk to you urgently. I'm on my way. The walk from the bookstore to Catalina's house was the longest of my life. Every step felt heavy. Every breath was difficult. When I arrived, Daniel was sitting in the living room. He stood up as soon as he saw me, and Catalina was right. He looked terrible. He had lost weight. He had deep dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. Mom. His voice broke when he said the word. Daniel. We just stood there, staring at each other. Two strangers who were once everything to each other. Can we talk in private? I looked at Catalina. She nodded. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me. Daniel and I went out to the backyard. We sat in the plastic chairs under the lemon tree. Mom, I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I didn't value you. You were right about everything. I was a terrible son. The words sounded sincere. But I had learned to listen beyond the words, to look for the truth behind the apologies. Why did you come, Daniel? Because I miss you. Because I want to fix our relationship. Is that all? He fell silent, his eyes filled with tears. Because everything fell apart, Mom. We lost the apartment. Megan and I are fighting all the time. Her parents treat us like a burden. I don't have anyone else. You're my only family. There it was. The truth. He didn't come because he missed me. He came because he needed me. Daniel, do you know how many messages you sent me in these 3 months? I don't know. A lot, I guess. 47. 47 messages. Do you know how many of those messages were just to ask how I was? Without asking for anything? Without needing something? He stayed quiet. 0, Daniel. Not one. Every single message was about you. Your problems. Your needs. Your money. You never asked if I was okay. If I was happy. If I needed anything. I'm sorry. Are you really sorry? Or are you just sorry you lost your resource? Because I think it's the latter. That's not true, Mom. I love you. I've always loved you. Love isn't just words, Daniel. It's action. It's respect. It's reciprocity. For 2 years, I gave you everything I had. Money, time, energy. And I never received anything in return except more demands. I know. And I want to change. Give me a chance to prove it. How? By lending you more money? By letting you keep using me until I have nothing left? No. I got a new job. Better pay. I'll be able to pay you back everything I owe you. Everything? Daniel, you owe me over $10,000. I know. But I'll pay you back, little by little. I swear, I don't want your money anymore. I want my peace. And you don't give me peace. You give me anxiety. You give me sadness. You make me feel like I'm only worth what I can give you. That's not true. Isn't it? Then tell me, when was the last time you came to see me just because you wanted to be with me? When was the last time you invited me to something and you paid? When was the last time you worried about my health, my dreams, my happiness? He couldn't answer. You can't, can you? Because it never happened. I was always the one giving. And you were always the one taking. Tears were streaming down his face now. So what do you want me to do? Beg you on my knees? You want me to suffer? To grovel? I don't want any of that. I just want you to leave me in peace. Let me be happy without guilt. Let me understand that I have a right to live my life without being tied to your constant needs. But you're my mother, and you're my son. But that doesn't make me your property. It doesn't make me your solution to every problem. You're an adult. It's time you acted like one. He stood up from the chair. He paced a few steps. He ran his hands through his hair. When he turned around, there was something different in his gaze. The mask of vulnerability had fallen. Now, there was only rage. So that's it. You're abandoning me. Just like you abandoned the dinner. Just like you abandoned the house. Just like you abandoned Megan and me. I didn't abandon you. You discarded me long before that. I just stopped being available to be used. You know what? You're right. I didn't come here to fix anything. I came because I needed money. Because I thought I could still convince you. But I see you've just become selfish and bitter. His words didn't hurt me like they used to. It was as if I had developed a protective layer, an invisible armor made of self-respect and clarity. If being selfish means taking care of myself, then yes, I am selfish. If being bitter means not letting you exploit me anymore, then yes, I am bitter. And I'm at peace with that. Daniel shook his head, disbelieving. I don't recognize you. You're not the mother I raised. Exactly. I'm no longer the mother you raised to serve you. Now I'm the woman I should have always been. A woman with dignity, with boundaries, with self-love. He turned to leave, but before he reached the garden gate, he stopped. And if I need you someday? If something serious happens to me? Are you not going to be there then, either? The question hit me in the chest, because there it was, the eternal dilemma of every mother. Where does love end and self-destruction begin? If something truly serious happens to you, something that threatens your life or your safety, I want you to know you will always be my son. But your money problems are not life or death emergencies. They are consequences of your decisions. and those are no longer my responsibility." We looked at each other one last time. I saw in his eyes that he finally understood, that there was no going back, that the mother he knew no longer existed. "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Daniel." I watched him walk away, his figure getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared. And then I let out the sob I had been holding back. I cried for the son I lost, for the relationship that was never what I dreamed it would be, for the years I gave without receiving. I cried for all of it. Catalina came out to the garden and hugged me without a word. She just held me as I emptied all the pain I had been carrying. "You did the right thing. It doesn't feel like it. Because it hurts. Love always hurts when you have to let it go. But the pain of letting go is less than the pain of holding on to something that destroys you." Days passed, then weeks. January arrived with a new year full of possibilities. Daniel didn't try to find me again. He didn't call, he didn't write. And although part of me still waited for a message, a bigger part learned to live with his absence. In February, Amelia offered me a full-time job at the bookstore. I accepted immediately. With my salary of $600 a month plus my pension, I could live comfortably. It wasn't a life of luxury, but it was a dignified life. A life that was mine. I moved into a small apartment 2 blocks from the beach, a tiny but sufficient space, with a kitchen where I cooked my meals, with a living room where I read in the afternoons, with a bed where I slept soundly, without anxiety. The reading group became my favorite routine. Every Thursday, we met to discuss books, but we always ended up talking about life, about our experiences, our scars. We all had similar stories: ungrateful children, families that had used us, relationships that had emptied us. But we also had hope. We had the second chance to build a life that filled us up instead of emptying us out. In March, Juliet organized a trip to the nearby mountains. A weekend retreat for our group. 8 of us went. All over 60, all with stories of survival. During that weekend, sitting around a campfire under the stars, we shared our deepest truths, our regrets, our dreams, our fears. When it was my turn to speak, I said something I had been holding in my heart. I spent 35 years feeling like I wasn't enough. That if I gave more, if I sacrificed more, if I loved more, my son would finally see me. He would value me. He would love me the way I loved him. But the truth is, it was never me who wasn't enough. It was him who was unwilling to see me. All the women nodded. Some cried. Because we had all lived some version of that story. Amelia spoke next. "The hardest thing I've ever had to learn is that you can't force anyone to value you, not even your own children. All you can do is value yourself and walk away from those who don't." That night, I slept under the stars, wrapped in a blanket, surrounded by women who understood me. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt completely free. April arrived with wildflowers and longer days. One afternoon, while I was organizing books at the bookstore, the bell on the door rang. I looked up and froze. It was Daniel. But he wasn't alone. He was holding a little girl's hand. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, with curly hair and my late husband's eyes. "Mom." His voice sounded different, more sober, more humble. "Daniel." We stood there, with feet of distance between us that felt like miles. "This is Sophie, your granddaughter." My heart stopped. Granddaughter? Since when? When? Megan was pregnant when everything happened. "We didn't tell you because we thought you were coming back, that it was all just a temporary tantrum." Sophie was born in January. I looked at the little girl. She watched me with curiosity, clutching her father's hand. "Hello, Sophie." She hid her face behind Daniel's leg. "We didn't come to ask for anything. I wanted you to meet her. I thought you had a right to know you have a granddaughter." Amelia came out from the back room. She assessed the situation immediately. "Aurora, do you want to take a break?" "Yes, please." We went out to the small patio behind the bookstore. Daniel lifted Sophie and sat her on a bench. She played with a small rag doll. "How is Megan?" "She's good. We're good." We moved into a smaller apartment, but it's manageable. I'm working 2 jobs. She's working from home again. It's not easy, but we're making it. I'm glad. Mom, I didn't come to ask for money. I came to tell you. You were right. About everything. I was a terrible son. I used you. I disrespected you. I took you for granted. And when you finally left, when I was finally left without your safety net, I had to face my own mistakes, my own irresponsibilities. Daniel, please, let me finish. When Sophie was born, when I held her in my arms for the first time, I understood something. I understood unconditional love. I understood what you felt for me. And I understood that I had abused that love in the worst way possible. Tears were streaming down his face. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to go back to the way we were. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. That I finally understand. And that I hope someday when Sophie grows up, I can be the kind of father to her that you deserved for me to be to you. I looked at my granddaughter, so small, so innocent, so unaware of all the pain that existed between the adults surrounding her. Can I hold her? Daniel nodded. He lifted Sophie and passed her to me. The little girl looked at me with those big, curious eyes. Hello, little one. I'm your Grandma Aurora. Guama? Yes, Grandma. She smiled. And something inside me melted. But it wasn't the same weakness as before. It was something different. It was love, yes, but love with boundaries. Love with self-preservation. Daniel, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your apology. But you need to understand something. I'm no longer the same woman you knew. I will not sacrifice my peace to be part of your life. I understand. If you want Sophie to know me, if you want her to have a relationship with her grandmother, it has to be on my terms. With respect. With clear boundaries. With no expectations that I am going to solve your problems or finance your life. I agree. I don't want any of that. I want my daughter to have what I had as a kid, a loving grandmother. Because even though I was a terrible son, you were an incredible mother. I know that now. We sat in silence for a moment. Sophie played with my necklace. Daniel watched us with a mixture of sadness and hope. Can we start over? Not like before, but as something new, something healthier. We can try. But it's going to take time. And it's going to require you to prove with actions, not just words, that you've really changed. I will. I promise you. Don't promise me. Just do it. Daniel left an hour later. He gave me his new number. He gave me the address of his apartment. He asked me to think about visiting them someday, when I was ready. That night, sitting on my small balcony looking at the ocean, I thought about everything that had happened, about the woman I was, about the woman I became, about the pain I had to go through to find my own voice. Would I have a relationship with Daniel again? I didn't know. But if I did, it would be different. It would be on my terms. With my boundaries, with my dignity intact, because I finally understood something that had taken me 68 years to learn. Self-love is not selfishness. Protecting yourself is not cruelty. And sometimes, the bravest way to love is to say no. Today, 6 months after that night in the restaurant, I live in my small apartment by the sea. I work at the bookstore I love. I have friends who value me. I have a routine that fills me. I have peace. Daniel calls me every 2 weeks. Short, respectful conversations. He sends me pictures of Sophie. He invited me to his birthday, and I went, but only for 2 hours. I set my boundaries, and he respected them. I don't know if we'll ever be close again, but I no longer need us to be in order to be happy. I no longer need his validation to feel like I'm worth something, because I finally learned that the most important love you can give is the love you give yourself, and that never, ever is it too late to start over. Sometimes, in the quiet afternoons, I think about that woman I used to be, the one who put up with everything, the one who swallowed her pride, the one who believed that loving meant destroying herself for others. And I thank her. I thank her for enduring everything she endured, because without that pain, I never would have found the strength to change. But I'm also glad I let her go, that I found the courage to become who I am now. A free woman, a dignified woman, a whole woman. And if there's one thing I'd like to say to anyone who is going through what I went through, it's this. It is never too late to choose yourself. It is never too late to set boundaries. It is never too late to say enough. Because at the end of the day, the only person you will live with your entire life is yourself. And you deserve to treat yourself with the same love and respect you have given to others. I gave everything. They treated me like garbage. But that day, I stopped swallowing my pride. And that's why I broke every tie. Because I was forced to protect myself. And I don't regret a thing.